All right. Hello. I'm Marguerite. I am currently a dual degree student here at Seton Hall, and I am getting my bachelor's in classical studies and my master's in museum professions with a registration track. So, to begin with, something unique about me, and I would say that is I attended from kindergarten all the way through high school a traditional Chinese Buddhist school. It actually had a huge hand in developing how I view technology. And that's because we had extremely limited access at this school to all forms of technology. We weren't allowed to use any devices, technological devices, at the school unless we had specific permission to use the computer labs. And even then, we didn't have access to the internet. And I didn't have as much restriction at home, but I still didn't get a computer and use the internet until I was 13 years old. And I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 16 years old. So my view on my experience with technology is that it's always been extremely limited, and so I'm not hugely familiar with it. I've only ever used it for schoolwork or to watch TV. So, because my experience with technology was so limited when I was younger, I spent most of my time reading books and going out with my mom. And one of the places that we loved going to the most was the Legion of Honor Museum of Fine Arts in San Francisco. And that is where I've had my most memorable museum experience. So, to start, I have to say that I really love ancient Greco-Roman and Egyptian mythology and history. So, when my mother and I did go to the Legion of Honor, I would always drag her to the classics collection that they had there. And when I was there, I was about 14 years old at the time, I was there looking at this really large crater. And just so you know, a crater is a large vessel used for mixing water and wine that the ancient Greeks used. And this poster behind me is actually an example of what a crater looks like. And I was looking at this crater, and it was huge. It was about half my size, I would say, and significantly larger around. And it had no chips in it, and the paint on it was just so beautifully clear. And I was suddenly struck by the fact that this vase was so much more important than I was or I would ever be, because it wasn't just a beautiful vase like I had always thought it was. It was an immortal life and the history of a people and a culture that I would never get to meet. And it was just such a moving experience for me that I knew immediately after that what I wanted to do with my life was to work in a museum and help continue to preserve the life of this beautiful artifact and really the entire culture. And so that was a very big moment for me, and of course my most memorable experience in a museum. Um, Incidentally, my first introduction to technology in a museum was, surprise, surprise, also at the Legion of Honor. And that was with audio tours. When I was a kid, I would always see the little symbols that they have for audio tours on the labels, and I would always beg my mom to let me get one, but since they were such an extra expense after already paying to go to the museum, it really wasn't worth it, so I usually didn't get one. So the first time my mother did let me get one, I was thrilled, and I took it straight to the classics gallery, and I learned a piece of information that I've never forgotten, and that is that looking at a piece of ancient Egyptian glass and how beautiful and iridescent it was, I learned that the iridescence was because they did not know how to purify the glass and the the sand that they used to make the glass, and those grains of sand were more weathered, and the different amounts of weathering allowed for different light refractions in the glass, which caused the iridescence. So there's a little fact for you from my audio tour experience. And so from that experience, I had a really good opinion of technology in museums. I've always loved audio tours since then. They are just amazing. And it's especially nice because I know a lot of people don't enjoy reading the panels, so having the option of an audio tour is really nice. And even if you do read the panels, still get that additional information, which is really great. And I've also really enjoyed newer additions in museums of touchpads and being able to get closer looks at objects that you might not have been able to before. One of my favorite examples of that was at the Met, and there was a very large desk that had lots of hidden drawers, and so they had a video available that showed them opening all of the secret compartments. And that was really great and satisfied my curiosity so that I didn't have to go and attempt opening the drawers myself. So generally speaking, I really love the addition of technology in museums, and I think it really enhances the experience. Personally, my only problem with technology in museums is when it becomes a little too gimmicky and is more to appeal to people who use social media a lot. And I understand it's to reach a wider audience, and free publicity for the museum is always amazing and great. But oftentimes, to me, it feels like it's encouraging people to show that they were at the museum instead of experiencing it, and encouraging them to actually engage with the objects in the museum. So, I don't know. I'm a little on the fence with that aspect of technology in museums, although I do understand its appeal. So, that was a brief introduction to me and my thoughts on technologies in museums. And, well, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.